Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out. Pleasure is mine once again to be joined by the incomparable Hall of Fame writer Thomas Hauser, albeit once again by the magic of the internet. Soon, I'm sure we'll have something to do in person. But you've also been busy in terms of getting another book out, The Most Honest Sport, out and available for those who are interested. The Most Honest Sport, which I think I asked you before about why you chose Vladimir Klitschko as the front of your cover, but can you let people in to what can they expect should they purchase the book?
Well, the most honest sport is a collection of all the articles I wrote about boxing in 2023 and 2024. So it covers all the big fights in that time, the big issues of those 2 years, which range from the Saudi takeover of boxing to the use of illegal performance enhancing drugs in the sport and what is and isn't done about it. There's a taste of history. There are a lot of, personal insights, slices of life. And I like it. I'm getting very good feedback. It's available, as I think most of your readers know, on Amazon, among other online outlets. It's available in hardcover, paperback, and ebook form. And if people read it, if they want to comment to me on it, my email address is out there. I'll repeat it. It's thomashauserwriter@gmail.com. And if somebody reads the book and wants to exchange thoughts on it with me, by all means, email me and I'll email you back. I like these compendiums. What they do for me is they gather what I've written in one place, and they also ensure that the articles will have life forever. I don't have to worry about a server going down someplace and the articles disappearing. And to a writer, that's important to me. For years, I did these books annually with the University of Arkansas Press. Now I've switched over to Admission Press, which also published my memoir, My Mother and Me, which was, I think we've talked about in the past, a book about my mother. And they're a wonderful home for me. They do a very good job of producing books. And I'm grateful to everybody who's had a part in the process.
Could you have envisaged, whilst you were writing The Most Honest Sport, that Gervonta Tank Davis would be taking on Jake Paul November 14th, and this would be the current state of the sport?
At this point, it's impossible to know what will happen with boxing. When I was writing The Most Honest Sport, I didn't envision the United States and the rest of the world and the condition we're in now, which is profoundly disturbing. We have to see what comes next, and all we can do is our individual part to get our thoughts out there. In the small picture, make boxing better, and in the larger picture, try to make the world a better place.
On balance to that, and I was speaking to Russ Amber about it, is there a balance in that when Jake Paul takes on Gervonta Davis, usually Jake Paul cards are solidly supported by traditional boxing output or fights, a better word, well-matched fights as well too, from what I've seen being at Jake Paul versus Chavez Jr., and they're accessible on Netflix as well too, which is one of the largest and leading platforms. Is there a balance maybe as a boxing offering that you could have that at the top and then the rest of it be traditional boxing?
I don't know what to expect. First, they're calling this an exhibition. Now, that might be because in some states, and I don't know what the rules are in Georgia, but in some states, other than in the heavyweight division, you can't have fighters that are separated by 50 pounds. There are strict limits on the number of pounds that can separate combatants. So when they call it an exhibition, I don't know if Jake is going to be trying as hard as he can to knock Gervonta Davis out. The Jake Paul Tyson fight was marketed as a real fight, and the Kisa was quite forthright and vehement in saying, look, this is a real fight. It's being marketed as a real fight, and I'm not going to do anything fraudulent and present it to the public as a real fight if it's not. Now, whether this is going to be an exhibition along the lines of Mike Tyson against Roy Jones, where neither fighter went all out, or something more, I just don't know. Do I think it's good for boxing? No. If you go out in the street in most places and you have the British population is much more educated in boxing. I guarantee you, if you go out on any street in the United States and ask people to ask people to name a live, an active boxer, a professional boxer, the answer you'll get most is either, well, I don't know if Mike Tyson's fighting anymore, or Jake Paul. Boxing has done this to itself, and I don't know that it gets better anytime soon. The important thing is to enjoy the good things that come along. And as for how Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul will shake out, I don't know. Look, if it's a real fight, if you're telling me that these two guys are going to go in there and do everything they possibly can to knock the other guy out, and you're telling me that officially, not in just, big talk at press conferences and the like, that's one set of circumstances. If it's an exhibition, it's a different set of circumstances. Either way, it's not for boxing purists.
I will do that. I'll have a chat to some people when I go out this weekend. It's bank holiday weekend over here in the UK. I'll ask them who they can name as a current active fighter. I did do that it was a couple of months ago now, around, and it probably was because the fight had just happened, but around Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. And a lot of people were able to name Eubank Jr., but that's because that crossed over into the mainstream, I think. But now that that's died down, I'll see if anyone can name anyone, maybe outside of Eubank Jr. as well, too. I imagine Anthony Joshua will be the name that people name, or Tyson Fury. But on the lines of heavyweights.
Also, in the UK, as I said, you have a much more educated populace when it comes to boxing. Boxing is doing quite well in the UK. You regularly pack 80,000 people into Wembley Stadium for fights that are good fights, but are not, earth-shattering fights very often. But you have a good, educated boxing fan base because promoters like Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn have built it from the ground up.
And onto the heavyweight scene, and we saw Moses Itauma, speaking of building fighters from the ground up. That's a reputation that Frank Warren has had and has held throughout the years of his promotional game. He took on Dillian Whyte over in Saudi Arabia, and a lot of the media talks around in the fight that the fight might go very early, and it did take form in that shape with Moses Itauma dispatching of Dillian Whyte in the first round. Just your overall takeaway from what you saw from someone who's been described as somebody who could lead the generation and the next, and potentially take on Alexander Usyk.
Moses Itauma impressed me a great deal. First, from what I have seen and heard of him outside the ring, he's a very impressive young man. He seems grounded in the manner of Lennox Lewis, who was also very grounded as a person. And look, Dillian Whyte looked old. He was outclassed from the opening bell. People say, oh, look at his weight, he was in shape. No, just because you weigh a certain amount doesn't mean you're in shape. When I was a young man, I was 6 feet 3 inches tall and I weighed 190 pounds. I'm now an old man and I'm 6 feet 2.5 inches tall and weigh 190 pounds. Does that mean I'm in the same shape that I was in as before? No, it just means that I watch my weight. Dillian did not look good. Having said that, I was very impressed with the way Moses Itauma dispatched of him, particularly the way he went to the body very effectively on multiple occasions when he had him hurt and in trouble against the ropes. Now, we have all seen fights where a fighter is knocked down and hurt and rises on unsteady legs, and the referee looks him over and says, walk toward me, now move to the side. Do you want to continue? And the fight goes on. Here, the referee stopped the action at what would have been the count of 7. Maybe it was Dillian falling back into the ropes. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Dillian given the full 10 seconds to steady himself before the fight was stopped. I don't think it would have made a difference in the long run, and very possibly it wouldn't have made a difference in the short run. But I feel that Dillian was entitled to that window of opportunity. Having said that, Moses did everything he was supposed to do. He looks very good, and I'd like to see him against better competition in the future. Am I interested in seeing him against Otto Wallin? No. Am I interested in seeing him against Jermaine Franklin? Not particularly. I mean, people, oh, look, Jermaine goes rounds. Yeah, but I don't want to see Moses against a durable punching bag. But Moses is drawing comparisons with other great fighters at a young age, and a lot of that is hype now. But yeah, could he validate those comparisons? Absolutely. Let's see what he does as he goes on. Right now, I would be interested in seeing Moses against any heavyweight in the world. Would I make Tyson Fury a favorite over Moses? Probably, but who knows where Tyson is at now? He's been hit a lot lately. He doesn't seem particularly interested in training. I would watch Moses against anybody. And I ran some numbers recently on what 3 other heavyweight child prodigies who turned out to be great did before the age of 21. And Moses, I think now is 13-0 with 11 knockouts. Is that right? Joe Louis was 19-0 with 15 knockouts before the age of 21 and won the title at age 23. Muhammad Ali was 16-0 with 13 knockouts and won the title at age 22. Mike Tyson was 30-0 with 27 knockouts. He won the WBC and WBA belts at age 20 and unified the crown at age 21. Now, will Moses be able to continue his run as he steps up in the quality of his opposition? I don't know. But he looks very good to me. As I said, I'd sure like to see him fight again. I'd like to see him against somebody who poses a challenge. And quite frankly, I would like to see him in the ring against anybody. I know there are a lot of people, a lot of very intelligent people, a lot of very knowledgeable people who say it would be ridiculous to put him in the ring with Alexander Usyk, because Usyk is a seasoned professional and a spectacular boxer and has all the elements, which is true. That's very, very true. But, would I watch that fight? Absolutely. That to me would be interesting. Moses goes to the body well. Moses hits very hard. A lot would depend on how Moses held up. And this isn't just true for Usyk, it's true of Moses against anybody, how he holds up. If he hears the referee say round 7, round 9, and if he hits a guy and a guy doesn't go anywhere, although, from the look of things, if Moses hits you, you're going to feel it. So let's see how Frank Warren continues to build him. We know he's going to build him as a gate attraction. Let's see how he builds him as a fighter. But I'm looking forward to the next few acts.
Yeah, so you're up for that fight between him and Alexander Usyk. I was speaking to some people within the industry, and it's sort of similar to, and it's not a 1-for-1 comparison, but in the way that Canelo Alvarez, if you want to use the quote from this generation, has touched greatness against Floyd Mayweather, but ultimately it was too early for him. But he had more fights than what Moses has had so far. In a similar sort of vein, Moses will be doing that with Alexander Usyk. Do you think that is a viable route for him to go to?
My sense is that Canelo Alvarez should have waited a few more fights before he fought Floyd Mayweather, and he also should not have agreed to a weight limit that severely drained him on fight night. Having said that, I was there. I was interested in the fight. If I was Frank Warren, would I match Moses immediately against Alexander Usyk? No. And I don't think Frank will do that. But if that's what happens next, I'd certainly make a point of watching it.
Does he have that crossover appeal to an American audiences? I know you're going to come back and say American audiences love knockouts, and he's providing that at the moment. But do you see, in terms of the UK, we're looking for that next star, and he might be the one in position for that. But do you think he translates over to American audiences?
Um, the American audience has become less and less relevant as time goes on. The United States is no longer where all the money comes from. It has a much smaller fan base. Um, I think to cross over with an American audience, Moses would have to come to the United States, maybe fight at Madison Square Garden. Anthony Joshua tried that. He, as they saying, when Anthony Joshua was invading America, and he fought Andy Ruiz at Madison Square Garden, and that didn't go so well. The invasion ended very quickly. Could Moses establish a beachhead in America? Yeah, not just because he's a very exciting fighter, but also because from everything I have seen, he is a very interesting, intelligent, articulate, attractive young man. So could he eventually connect up in the United States with the right platform? Sure. Would DAZN be the right platform here in the United States? Probably not, because DAZN doesn't have the reach in the United States. So let's first let Moses continue to build his profile in the UK. You know, win some big fights in the UK, and everything else will fall into place. But in the world we're in, the United States is no longer the center of the boxing world. And so he doesn't need the boxing world to become great. He doesn't actually, excuse me, he doesn't need the United States to become great as either a fighter or a gate attraction.